Welcome to the Hud Grad Club. I'm Chris Webb, and I'm the Alumni Engagement Career Consultant with the University of Huddersfield's Careers Employability Service. And, full disclosure, I'm also a University of Huddersfield graduate. So I've generally got pretty positive things to say about both the institution and any of our graduates. But don't take my word for it. In this podcast, we'll be meeting different members of the University of Huddersfield's global alumni community, finding out what makes them tick, about their experiences during their time at the university and their career journeys since completing their studies. Join us as we explore the inspiring, innovative and diverse range of individuals that make up the Hud Grad Club. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hud Grad Club. And Umar, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Chris. I think it's a really good initiative and I'm personally honoured to be here. So thank you.
You're saying all the right things to begin with. This is excellent. So for maybe any of our viewers who kind of don't know you already or haven't come across you before, Umar, can you tell us just a little bit more about sort of your background kind of at the university, what you're doing currently and, what course you studied, I guess, when you were with us at the university?
Yeah, of course. So hello to my viewers. So I grew up in a small town called Batley, more famously known for being the manufacturers of Fox's biscuits. Growing up, I've always had a keen interest in technology, and as such, I pursued technology in my A-levels and subsequently university, which is why I'm here to talk about university. At university, I studied information systems BSc. I commenced my studies in 2013. Thereafter, I graduated in 2017. And from then onwards, it's just been onwards and upwards, really.
Fantastic. And can you tell us a little bit more about your current role that you're doing now?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. So my current role, I am a service manager at NHS Digital. So I manage a team of SMEs who are specialised in vaccinations, tech and data. Ultimately, we are responsible for ensuring that the key tech and data used behind the many vaccination sites is always up and running and working with minimal disruption. It's quite complex, it's challenging at times, but I absolutely love it, knowing that it's giving back to the community and impacting our citizens. So absolutely love what I do.
Oh, fantastic. Great introduction, Umar. And we're going to, I know, pick a little bit more into kind of your career journey a bit later in the podcast.
That's right.
But we start every episode, as always, with our greatest Hud story ever told section. So we want to find out a little bit more about your experience at the University of Huddersfield and what that was like. So I guess first question, you're local to West Yorkshire. What kind of brought you to the University of Huddersfield? What sort of made you decide to kind of join the university in the first place?
Well, Huddersfield being local, and the other thing that attracted me to Huddersfield was that I was already a student at Huddersfield New College. Now, one of the things I love about Huddersfield was its vibrancy, and by vibrancy, I mean the diversity that was on offer. Not only do you see lots of different races, religions, the fact that there's a lot of different people, everyone is so welcoming, there's a warm sort of atmosphere. And I think that carried on through from my time at Huddersfield New College and going into university open days. I realized, hang on a minute, I want to be here. And I think it sounds pretty cliche, but there's a lot of people that will tell you when applying for university, you will get that feeling. When you walk in for open days, you will get that feeling whereby you'll think to yourself, hang on, this is a place I want to be. And I'm quite glad to say I got that specific feeling. I've visited other universities, they had a lot on offer and a lot to offer, and I like those, but nothing quite as good as what a university offered me. And I definitely got that feeling, and one I did not regret. And ultimately,
I think that's very true about that gut feeling, isn't it? Yeah, as you were saying, kind of, it's just a sense that you might get about a place or about an institution. Yeah.
I can't recommend that gut feeling enough, honestly. And I think I'd go as far as saying I do want to pursue further studies in the future, and I have looked at potential courses at University of Huddersfield because I know the resources are on offer. I know the fact that university has been the Times University of the Year as well. There's all these accolades, and it provides testament to why I'd love to come back. So 100% recommend the university.
We have to put out a disclaimer here that we've not paid Umar for any of this content.
Yeah, you haven't. It's me being passionate.
So tell us, anyway, that's really, really brilliant to hear. Tell us, what is kind of one of your sort of great memories of your time at the university, or a couple of memories, or kind of, you know, people that you might want to give a shout out to?
Oh, I've got quite a few memories, really lovely memories. Of course, I've got my course mates who I spend endless time with in labs, in the library, you know, being 11:59, 1 minute to deadline, and our assignment needs submitting, and we've still managed to mess up somehow. But here I am in a really good job, so, you know, I must have done something right. I was also a student ambassador, and when I was a student ambassador, I was fortunate enough to be on hand for a royal visit. And at the time, Princess Anne was visiting the university to open one of the newly refurbished buildings. And I was lucky enough to be in that process, setting up the technology, showing visitors around, etc. I was quite lucky in the sense I got quite close to Princess Anne. I managed to say hello, and she said hello back. And I'm sure she must have seen all the student ambassadors with our wonderful orange T-shirts on. And I'm quite fond of that memory. I really enjoyed that. Like I say, I'm quite lucky enough to have seen Princess Anne up close and front. That was a really good memory for me.
That is a proper kind of claim to fame. That's, I think, probably the closest to me is I once served David Baddiel at Pizza Express. That's about as close as I've got to
You wouldn't remember me, but that's fine. But I can say I remember her.
Excellent. Oh, that's brilliant. And I mean, you mentioned there obviously about yeah, you know, sometimes in university you think when you're in the middle of, I guess, kind of studying, where's it all kind of going to lead? But as you said, you know, it's all turned out pretty well for you. So this is kind of a really good chance, I guess, for us to move on to the section to explore your kind of career journey in a bit more detail. Because I know, you know, you've kind of taken some decisions, and some quite bold decisions, to kind of get to where you are in your career so far. So tell us a little bit more then, what was kind of that transition like, I guess, from sort of finishing the degree, you know, leading to sort of where you are now?
So completing the degree, I felt a sense of, oh, I'm morphing into this young, responsible adult, the one that has to jump into the world of working, have a bit of a schedule, have a bit of a routine. You can no longer turn up late to lectures or even miss it and you're going to be fine. You almost have to carve your own path. And whilst you have friends and family, and I was quite fortunate, I had friends and family around me to give me really good, noble advice. You do know at the end of it, ultimately, you're on your own. So morphing from a student into being a sort of a full-time professional, it had its few challenges, but it's one I embraced rather quick, and I embraced the change. I thought, this is what I want. It's why I studied what I did, and it's why I've chosen to go down a specific route in a specific industry. I would say the biggest challenges was getting used to the routine, and the fact that if I was failing an assignment, I didn't have anyone to lean on, or the fact that I could run to my lecturer and say, can you help me out? I think the biggest challenge is that routine, and knowing that in a workplace, things are a bit more different. You'll come across a more diverse sort of range of colleagues that you work with, not only from where they are, but ages, specialisms people bring, things like that. Just adjusting and adapting to aspects like that. But like I say, it's a change I welcomed. I embraced it quite well, and I enjoyed that transition. It was difficult, but I really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's really good to hear. I mean, you know, you mentioned earlier about obviously really enjoying the job that you're in now. Yeah. You're from a technology background. Tell us a bit about why you decided to kind of go into NHS Digital, and I guess how you ended up at this particular job that you're at now.
It's funny you mentioned this, Chris, because growing up, I would say I've always been a bit of a clumsy individual. I've always had cuts and bruises and all sorts, and I've been in the hospital for all sorts of weird, wonderful, wacky things. And I guess being in hospital so often and getting treated for whatever, he led me to be quite intrigued. And I've always been quite intrigued into how things work. And having that interest in technology, I would see doctors or consultants, whoever they may be, input my records onto an information system. I've always thought, okay, how do they manage this? Where do they keep these records? Things like that. And going to hospitals all the time, weirdly, I didn't mind it. I I enjoyed it. It's a bit weird, but I enjoyed it. So that led me to a career in the NHS, and I wholeheartedly love the NHS with a lot of passion. I love what I do, and I mentioned it earlier on. I love what I do because it's serving our community out there, our family, our friends. It's giving back to the community. And I love the fact that what I'm doing, it has a positive impact, and we're improving national systems, we're improving access to health systems. And more importantly, we're in a bit of a digital age right now. I say a bit, we're in a massive digital age, and I want to help contribute to that, where healthcare informatics are evolving and growing quite rapidly. So I love what I do. As I mentioned, I'm a service manager in the NHS. I have a broad range of responsibilities, and I undertake those responsibilities with a lot of pride and passion. I wouldn't want to leave NHS ever. It's something I hold with a lot of affection in my heart.
And I think I'm right in saying, in addition to those job responsibilities, you're also something of a poster boy for NHS Digital as well. So, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about your starring role in the NHS kind of campaigns.
Yeah, I'm hoping Hollywood might snap me up after this. But I was on a staff network. So one of the staff networks was the BME, Black Minority Ethnic. And on there was someone calling for volunteers to appear in a sort of a promotional film. So I put my name in the hat. I'm like, why not? Let's go for it. And I was selected eventually. Little did I know it was a video that would be going on YouTube on the national front, and it involved a camera crew following me around for best part of a day, recording me doing all sorts of things. Funny story, whilst recording, there was a shot where I was walking into our office, and they made me record that at least 10, 12 times just to get the right lighting, making sure there's no distractions, making sure there's no colors clashing with their high quality industrial cameras, things like that. So yeah, I've appeared in a video for the NHS, just promoting who we are, what we do, why we exist, those kind of commonly asked questions. So I'm quite privileged to have appeared in that video.
And I think I'm right in saying as well, your kind of, I guess, interest in the NHS stretches beyond your current role in terms of information technology as well. I believe you've got an interest specifically in kind of paramedic side of things as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. So my dream is to become a paramedic at some point. I'm not quite sure how I'll get there, but the dream remains very much alive. I think it's like I say, having spent time in hospitals and A&Es and medical centers and whatnot, I've always been intrigued, and I would absolutely love to become a paramedic. It's certainly a massive dream of mine. Hopefully one day I get there, and if I do, we can maybe do this session again.
That would be great. Explore how you got there. I mean, obviously it's so clear kind of, your passion for sort of working within the NHS, but I think it's really useful for us to actually kind of take a step back, because I know actually to get to the role that you're in now, it did necessitate you actually taking a step away from NHS Digital in order to then be able to come back in. So tell us a little bit about how, I guess, your career journey developed, and why you took that decision to sort of move away from the NHS in order to develop and move forward.
Yeah, so to become a service manager at NHS, it wasn't the most easiest. It did come with challenges. So as soon as I graduated, I joined the NHS. I joined as a service operations officer, and a certain percent of my role meant being out in the field, going to different health centres, visiting consultants, doctors, nurses, whatever technological needs they had. But I knew my goal was to one day become a sort of a manager and maybe lead a team. And like I say, I wanted to give back to the community, and I thought, you know what, my way of doing that is hopefully leading a team and help shape the future of the NHS somewhat. So I undertook several roles in the NHS. There came a point where I left the NHS setting and I joined Morrison's head office. Being quite a motivated individual, Morrison's head office was able to offer me things I was not able to attain in the NHS at the time. One of them being industrial worldwide recognized qualification. And they gave me certain responsibilities that allowed me to progress, allowed me to think forward and into the future. So I spent around 9 months in Morrison's head office, learning a few more things, attaining that qualification. After getting that qualification, I was lucky enough to get back into NHS and subsequently NHS Digital. And from then onwards, I've just continued learning. I firmly believe every day is a school day, and if you stick by that, you will learn a lot. And I love learning. So yeah, it wasn't a straight path into where I am now. It did have its challenges and hurdles, but look, I welcome those challenges and hurdles, and I think everyone else should as well. If you're a young graduate, you will come across certain challenges in your career, and it's best not to look at them as a blocker. Look at it in such a way that once you embrace it, it's something ticked off your list. It's a way to scope and help shape you as an individual. So that's my sort of brief entry to the NHS.
No, that's great. I mean, I think a really important point there around, I know we've spoken about this sort of before off the podcast, about that sort of idea of, progression not always having to be promotion. It's not always that direct ladder for a career, is it? It's, as you said, exactly. Developing yourself, learning new skills, those type of things too. Yeah,
progression doesn't have to be an upwards line. It can be zigzag almost. For me, it was certainly zigzag. Progression doesn't have to be you get from one pay scale up to the other. Progression can be all sorts. For example, for me, progression meant taking a sideways move while earning the same salary, but in actual fact, I was learning a certain set of skills. And those skills are what's enabled me to continue taking the next step above and beyond. So my advice for anyone watching, progression doesn't have to be that straight line. It can be zigzag. As long as you know what your path is and you can define what progression is for you, that's all that matters.
And I think, we talked about sort of this before off the podcast, but you mentioned about your line manager at Morrison's actually being very open-minded and receptive to that. I think sometimes people have this kind of vision that if you go to a company and you've kind of got to be there for a certain amount of time, you've got to be 100% invested for, a long time in that company. But actually, you mentioned that your line manager there was actually very open-minded and sort of knew you had this longer term goal to get back to the NHS, and we're happy to kind of help you facilitate that a little bit.
Yeah, so I was quite fortunate enough to have a line manager who, number one, believed in me. Number two, immediately knew what my aspirations and ambitions were. And she was quite a warm, friendly character, and she wanted to help me. She wanted to see me go further, and I really, really appreciate that. We're still in touch. We're very close friends, even still. And I really appreciated having that mentor figure. And at times I would say she was also my work mother as well. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm quite fortunate enough to have had someone in my life that has showed me how to get from A to B, how to navigate certain pitfalls, certain hurdles, things like that.
Brilliant to hear you're still connected. Are there any other kind of key figures, I guess, in your career so far that you'd like to give a shout out to while we've got time on the podcast?
Quite a few. I think my parents being one of them. Parents have always supported me, and being the first child who went to university, I think they were quite desperate for me to succeed. Secondly, I would say my wife. My wife's always been by my side and always helped me. She's always motivated me to be the best version of myself. And of course, I've got a lot of close friends from my time in university. And we've all sort of helped one another throughout this journey. So I'm really glad I've met the people I've met, and we've kept in touch with one another, motivating one another through difficult times.
It's really interesting, isn't it? We talk about this quite a lot in the Careers Employability Service, particularly for people in their final year, about saying, what you've got to remember is that everyone that you're connected with now, who's maybe at the same level you are, in 5 years' time, you're going to be rising within your respective professions together, and you've got this kind of great, as you say, professional network, that can kind of support each other. So I think that's brilliant to hear. I mean, fantastic reflections on what feels like a really packed career journey so far, even after only kind of 5 years out of university. And it leads us, I guess, really nicely onto our final section of the podcast, which is our underrated careers advice. So you've already talked about some kind of top tips there, certainly in terms of, how people kind of reflect on progression and promotion. Are there any other kind of key tips or nuggets of information you'd want to share with University of Huddersfield current students or graduates that you think have been particularly helpful in your career?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I think one of the things I would recommend, and I can't recommend it highly enough, is the ability to network. If you meet someone, get to know them. Doesn't matter if they're not in your profession, you will get to know them a bit more, and you may need them at some point. For me, I've always loved networking. I'm quite a sociable person. So if I've met someone in my field, I've got to know them, what they do, what their specialist skills are. But I can't recommend networking, honestly, it's massively underrated. Anytime I've networked, there's always been something positive that's come out of it. For example, LinkedIn, I've met so many fellow professionals within my sort of profession, what I do in service management. And of course, I see little events now and then. And I came across yourself as well in the Hud alumni page. So networking is absolutely massive. That's a massive takeaway for me. Second thing I would say, I mentioned it earlier on, but embrace opportunities. Opportunities, they come and go, but once you see one, grab it with both hands, take it, and just ingest it in. For me, opportunities, there was quite a few. There was some I missed, but that's fine because I'm happy where I am right now. But opportunities will come and go, and you must just grab them when they come. You won't know, you never know when they're going to come around next. So I think that would be my two key takeaways today. Number one, make sure you network and network well with others. And number two, if you get opportunities, embrace them and grab them in both hands.
Fantastic. Great kind of reflections there, and two really useful nuggets for us to pass on. I think particularly it's, music to the ears of kind of someone from a careers background here. You talk about networking like that in a less kind of corporate sounding way. I think a lot of people, when they hear about networking, it's kind of got that sort of fear factor. But as you say, it's connecting with people. It's building relationships that are going to be mutually
exactly,
and being interested in people.
Absolutely.
As you said, yeah.
Networking doesn't have to be going to a formal black tie event after work and mingling with others while sipping on drinks and having snacks. There's that common stigma people have that networking is after work events and meeting people whilst being dressed a bit smartly. Absolutely not. Networking is just about being able to communicate. You get to know the other person, they get to know you. That's networking for you. There's many ways to network. You can do it virtually via LinkedIn. You can get to know people offline, things like that. So yeah, it's absolutely massive networking.
And that is a brilliant note to kind of come back to you, I guess, and say, if we've got students and graduates watching the podcast who might want to connect with you, what's the best way to kind of find you and potentially get in touch?
Absolutely. I'm very open to helping others out. So best way to get in touch with me is via LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Umar Chhima. So that's UMARCHHIMA. But no doubt Chris will be posting it on this video.
We'll flash it up on the screen so people can check it out and get in contact. Well, Umar, thanks so much for taking the time to join us on the podcast. Thanks for all of your reflections and insights and becoming another latest member of the Hud Grad Club. And obviously we wish you best of luck with everything moving forward.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Chris. I really appreciate it. And for all you graduates or past students watching out there, current students, best of luck. Absolutely hammer your studies, and I wish you all in future endeavors and hope you get all the success of the world.
Fantastic. Thanks, Umar. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Enjoyed the podcast? Then go to the University of Huddersfield YouTube channel for all of our future episodes. Subscribe, like, and don't forget to hit the bell button for notifications. If you'd like to be involved in the Hud Grad Club podcast moving forward, please get in touch with us on alumni@hud.ac.uk.